Lisa Harrison, and today I'm talking to Wendy Adams, who many of you will already know. And Wendy is a very powerful clairvoyant, um, psychic, intuitive, healer. And today she's going to be sharing her experience with the medical and pharmaceutical industry from a intuitive perspective. Uh, what she uncovered through her psychic abilities. And this is not a show to fear, to scare, or anything like that. This is hopefully the information will empower you to play a more active role in your own health and well-being and start to question a little more thoroughly the information you're given by doctors, by the pharmaceutical and medical industry in general. And with having said that, welcome, Wendy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Now, for those who don't know, you have been doing weekly shows, and you were doing them with us on the One Network as well for a while there. And you stopped doing them because of your health.
Yes.
You had developed a cough that had lasted for a long, long time. And normally you are able to heal yourself quite easily. So do you want to pick the story up from there?
Absolutely. Yeah, like Lisa just said, I was doing the shows, and I was actually doing 2 a week. And with the cough, it was getting really hard for me to do shows. And then I began having dizzy spells. And I always heal myself. Like, I do not get sick. And there's only been one other time that there was something that I couldn't heal. And with a near-death experience, I was healed on the other side. Via light beings or light angels, whatever you want to call them. So it is really, really rare for me to be sick, and this kept going on. So I usually attend on the other side light warrior meetings, and I was there, and the light beings told me, look, when you go to the doctors, pay attention to the messages and the visions that you see. It's really important that you pay attention and you share what you see. So I realized, okay, they're not helping me either, and I'm not going to be able to heal. This is happening for a reason. So what I did is I decided I was going to make an appointment with the doctors. And real quick before I tell you what happened with that, I just want to say that before I get further into that experience, that here in the United States, the Obamacare was signed on March 23rd, 2010. It's officially called the Affordable Care Act and Education Reconciliation Act, I believe. And now on the surface, this is actually a really great program. There's actually a lot of pros to this program, to be fair. But unfortunately, there's also some cons as well. We're basically required here in the US to maintain health insurance coverage by law. And we are actually subject to fines for up to $5,000 if we do not carry health care insurance. Our employers here actually report to the government if an employee doesn't have health care insurance. Now, this health care insurance that we're required to maintain is not free. It's actually out of pocket for us, and so it costs us a bit. So for a majority of the people here, as you may or may not know, it's actually no savings to us. And because we're now legally required to have health insurance, it's not at all like the other countries, because many of the other countries, you don't have to put anything out of pocket. But where it's different as well is that it's not at all free for us. And if we don't have it, we're subject to these fines. So
you said the word affordable is in the title. Is it affordable?
It's not affordable. It truly isn't. For example, it's based on your actual employer, what the cost is for your insurance. So for the plan, for example, that I have, it's actually a family plan that covers me and the children. And the way the program works is the cost that I incur is actually $400 twice a month. So it's up to you. Is $800 affordable to you? It's not so much for me, but I guess it just depends on everyone's financial situation. But for me, no, the case is it's not affordable. And the one thing that really it does do is it kind of encourages us, because we are paying these high insurance costs. And it encourages us to seek medical treatment when we're actually not feeling well.
Yeah.
And the reason that I mention this is because in a moment I'll tie it in together with what happened. So now that you hear that part of it, when I called to make the appointment to see the doctor, the receptionist said to me, "Is this going to be a cash pay?" And that stood out to me intuitively. And I assume, well, is she talking about, debit, credit, or cash, right? Well, I probably will pay cash. So I said, yes, I guess I'll be paying cash. And
So
she
even
said,
though
okay.
you've got your health insurance through Obamacare, you still have to actually fork out cash to go to the doctor on top of that.
Right. You have a deductible that you pay, and what it is for an office visit, it depends on your actual insurance plan. Usually, the price ranges. It's based on how much money you make, what plan you have, and there's so many things that actually determine it. But for example, the copayment that I have for my plan is $25 every time I would go to a doctor. So when I arrived at the doctor's office, I walk in and there's a gentleman ahead of me at the reception line, and I can see the receptionist getting really, really impatient with them, and I could just feel the energy. Wow, it was just not at all a positive environment. And she said to him, "Well, you told me you were cash pay. Now you say you have insurance?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I do. I just I didn't know what you meant by cash pay." And I'm thinking, I'm remembering this because this was part of my call when I made the appointment too. And I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm next. But anyways, then she says to him, "Well, you need to call your insurance company, have them fax a copy of your insurance card to our office. Without the insurance card, we won't even see you." And he said, "Well, I never got a card. I just know the name of the company. I don't know what number to call. Do you have the number?" And so she read the phone number to him, and she was reading it to him so quickly. Like, 480, blah, 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 really fast. And he's like trying to type it into his phone, and the poor guy couldn't get it. And so he asked her to repeat it, and she did it again. And I could see what she was doing. And because I had been told, pay attention to everything that you see and the visions that you see while you're there as well, I actually go everywhere usually with like a notebook. So I'll have something to write with, pen and paper or whatever. And so I wrote down the number for the gentleman. And so when she said it again, he asked her a third time, "Could you tell me the number again?" And she said, "Look, just go call directory assistance." And so I gave him the number that I wrote down for him. And I said, "Here, I got it for you." And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And then she was like, "Okay, well, now step out of the office. You can't use a cell phone in here." She was really upset that he was not a cash pay patient. And I still didn't understand all the details of it until I actually paid my copayment. Being a psychic, if someone touches me, I'm going to actually see information whether they want me to or not. That's kind of how it works. So when she gave me the change back for my copayment, her hand touched mine, and it was all over. I saw everything. And what I saw was this. I saw men in suits from, I'm not sure what agency, but from some kind of official agency going into their office and pretty much letting them know that what they need to do is they need to keep track of all of the patients that are not using health insurance. And they literally have to turn us in. And so hence when I went in there, my name was written on one clipboard. There was 2 clipboards. And when I told her I'm paying with insurance, I'm paying cash, but I'm using my health insurance for the visit, my name was scratched off on one clipboard and then rewritten on the other one. So there she was just out 2 cash pay patients. So what happens is they have to actually turn the patients in that don't have the health insurance, since it's against the law to not have it now. And if they don't do it, they actually incur fines. But to make it a little bit easier for them to do this, they actually get a bonus or a kickback from the fines that are actually paid from the
$5,000 fine, yeah.
Payment, yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
racket if you can pull that one off.
It is. And, we're told, hey, you can trust your doctors, you can tell them anything, what, they're on your side. We're kind of taught that, at least I was, and I know many other people have been as well. And you know what, they literally are informing on us for payment. And that kind of blew my mind, because I never thought in a million years that would be the case.
So this was with the initial visit with your GP?
Yeah, it sure was. And this is before the visit even started. This is all the stuff I got.
And how did that visit go in the end?
what happened is I went for the checkup, and as you know, I was coughing and dizzy, and I really thought it was just maybe, a little cold or maybe a sinus infection, maybe that was causing dizziness, because I knew there wasn't anything majorly wrong with me. With my abilities, I can usually see when people have something wrong with them. I've been able to tell since I was really, really young. And the doctor was like, well, there's something very wrong with you. And I kid you not, I left that office with 7 prescriptions for me and 5 over-the-counter on prescription pads that he felt I should be taking. 12 different medications is what he wanted me to take. Thinking, well, if I'm not sick coming into it, taking all this, I'm definitely going to be sick.
12? I'm sorry, I'm shocked. 12?
12 prescriptions. There were 7 were prescriptions, and then 5 were over-the-counter type medications that I should be taking.
Was some of them to counter the effects of others, or was it all to address what he believed were different issues with you?
Yeah, for the cough and the dizziness, I believe this is what he felt I needed to have. And I'm thinking, I haven't been here to the doctor's office for a year. If you look at it this way, I just got basically 1 prescription for each month that I wasn't there. It's kind of what I got. But
making up for lost time. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And then basically he's like, well, we want to run some more tests. We want to do, a chest x-ray, CAT scan, definitely blood work. And so they organize all these tests and everything. And then they organized for me to go in to have them do a biopsy. They really think I have cancer, is what they tell me.
He said that to you in your initial visit.
In my initial visit, before any tests were actually performed, I was told that we're pretty sure this is cancer.
Based on the cough.
Based on my cough. And like, wow, this is not good. I mean, if any of you out there have been diagnosed or, told that as a diagnosis, I mean, it's shocking. There's so many emotions that you go through being told that, but to be told that right initially from the beginning. And then I was told that the test results came back and confirmed it, by phone, not even at a visit or anything, over the phone. You do have this. This is the oncologist that the doctor wants you to go to. And he referred me to somebody.
So hang on, backtrack a little. So you're in this initial consultation with your GP. He tells you based on a cough and maybe a listen to your chest, I would hope at least, that he's pretty sure got cancer.
Pretty sure.
Or there's a bunch of tests,
right,
which you go for.
Yes.
And then he gets the results of those and just gives you a call over the phone to tell you, yes, all the tests have confirmed that you do. So how long between those 2 visits, or the visit and the phone call?
It was 2 weeks, everything. From the original visit to everything. 2 weeks from the phone call, referring me to an oncologist. And so I took down the number for the oncologist. I still, mind you, none of it registered, none of it resonated to me at all. And so I called the oncologist that they recommended I go to, and they already knew of me. Oh, yes, Wendy. Okay, we need to set up some appointments. I believe it's for chemo, right? And I'm like, well, we're going to find out. We're going to talk. Like, we're not doing anything yet. And at that time, she told me, well, it'll be 8 weeks before we can see you. And that was when I was like, well, 8 weeks. It's just, I'm not that patient of a person at all. And 8 weeks, I just wasn't going to stand for. So what I did is I called like my insurance provider, got a list of oncologists, and I intuitively just picked one and went to see him. And he's like, well, why are you here? I'm like, well, I'm being told I have cancer. I said, I don't believe it. I don't think that they're right. I said, I don't think I have any other signs.
Did you have all the test results to take with you to this new oncologist, or?
Yeah, I did. I had the x-rays to bring. I had the blood work to bring, and I had everything. And he's looking at it, and he seems really puzzled. And he said, would you mind if I double check this information? He's like, something's not adding up based on what you're showing me. Something's just not quite adding up to me. Would you mind if I double check it? I'm like, please, because I don't agree with this diagnosis. And I certainly don't want to do any kind of treatment until I have some proof. I can't buy it. It doesn't resonate to me at all. And come to find out, they redid it. Now, the x-rays that I brought with me were for a man. They were not the x-rays of a woman. The blood work was not my blood type. The test results did not match me at all. It was nothing to match me, period.
So this new oncologist ran a whole new battery of tests, the same ones that you'd already had. and got
Right.
completely different results, including a different blood type.
Including a different blood type. Yeah. So it was interesting. So what's that?
So then what? What does he say to you?
At this point, he's like, we don't need to schedule you for any kind of a treatment. He's like, quite frankly, he goes, I'm not sure what symptoms you had, but more than likely, whatever it was, he goes, based on your blood work that I just drew, you're very healthy and there's actually nothing wrong. It was probably just a bit of a virus or a cold that has run its course, because I can't find anything wrong based on all these tests. You're in great health. Everything's fine. Thank God, everything's wonderful. But just going through all of that was just incredible. And when he was showing me the x-rays, intuitively, I know that the x-rays belonged to a man by the name of Thomas. I won't say his last name, but intuitively I got both the names, his first and last name. So I do know that for sure it was not for me. And, all of my test results luckily came back okay. But then I saw some more visions. And it's really, really interesting what I saw, because I'm seeing a doctor, and I won't say his last name, but his first name was Joshua. And I'm seeing him walk down a hallway, and I'm hearing his shoes walking on this long corridor. Okay. And I could hear just the clicking of the shoes as he's approaching. He's approaching these wooden doors. And I noticed this intricate carving on the door. And there's like this circular design shaped handles. And if the handles were attached, they would actually make like an infinity symbol, but they're not attached. And there's a coil that goes up between the two actual handles, the circles. And as this doctor, Joshua, pushes the doors open, you see, they didn't pull out towards him at all. And for some reason, that really, I took notice of that. But so he pushed the doors inward. I see this massive room with hundreds of round shaped tables. And there's like looks like 12 people, I believe, at each of the table. And everyone's standing up. They're clapping and they're saying, "Welcome to the ring, Joshua. Welcome to the ring. Congratulations, Joshua. We're so happy you're here at the ring." And as the men and women were all dressed in business professional attire. And as he walked up towards the front, I could see like a long straight table. It was raised up a few steps like a small stage. And there were 12 women all dressed in black. And I remember that thinking that, wow, this is like the hierarchy at the table is what came to me. And I remember seeing all the women, and the women were in charge. And for some reason, I remember being surprised by that and a little mad at myself after being a woman that I was surprised a woman's in charge. But I just was in that moment. Anyways, I was seeing that there's a ring of these, it's a ring, and doctors belong to it. They refer the patients to others within the ring that are specialists, and they basically work together. And you see, what I didn't know until this time was that they refer the patients to each other, and misdiagnosing patients is actually a big business. For each patient that they get into a cancer treatment, they get a cut of $250,000 to split, is what I saw. But the misdiagnosing is not cancer specific. It also applies to many other profitable illnesses that are out there. And you see, like here in the US, the population is actually between 316 and 320 million is the estimated population. And what I didn't know is that each year, 12 million adults in the United States who seek out patient treatment are misdiagnosed. This year, the numbers that they're predicting of patients that will be diagnosed with cancer is 1.7 million. So you could just imagine the profit for this if you're looking at $250,000 per patient.
So when, in your intuitive belief, knowing, experience, we're not just talking about malpractice. We're not talking about mistakes. We are talking about a deliberate, calculated, organized program. And you're based on what you're telling me. This is not medical error. It's not
a medical error at all.
Because in order for you to get the original diagnosis, they've taken the x-rays from one individual, blood tests from a different individual. I mean, it's not like they just accidentally bundled one person's results together and gave, like, they all came from different people, right?
Yes. And that's just it. And then, like, and I want to say too, like, this is not me trying to slam medical professionals out there or doctors, and I want to say that this is, like, specific to this experience. And I do also want to reiterate that the oncologist that I went to, that I chose, was coming from his heart. He was very honest, and he helped me to see that I was being misdiagnosed. So I just want to state that point here, because I know this is putting, doctors and physicians in basically in a negative light. And I want to state that, of course, it's not everyone. Just like with anything out there in life, the intent is really what makes the difference between, the two doctors. And I just had to say that part.
I mean, I've heard too many stories over the years of, which I put down to malpractice. I did put down to just simple human error. People being diagnosed with cancer, going through the treatment ends up killing them, an autopsy afterwards, and they can't find the cancer. Oops. And it wasn't at the time, on several of these cases, put down to, well, the chemo cured the cancer. Even it was just, we can't find any trace of it. Or misdiagnosis, as you've said, and a second or third opinion will bear that out. But to think that it may in fact go that one step further and be a deliberate scheme,
you're right,
for the sake of making money, is heartbreaking, because you want to think that people who enter the medical profession, and I'm sure the majority of them do, come from a place of, really genuinely wanting to help and heal. But it only takes a few. Like anything, it only takes that one rotten egg. This information for me, it just is out there to encourage people to please get a second opinion, and please go outside of the ring of referrals that you might be getting. And if you're, the cost is extraordinary, obviously. Financially, I do know of people in the States who don't have healthcare because they simply cannot afford it. And they are better off. There's no way in the world you would not normally spend $800 a month going to the doctor.
Right.
You'd be better
well,
off.
See, and that's the thing, though. They're like searching these people out. They've taken steps to have us, those that don't have it, be informed upon and reported, and you're subject to fines. From what I understand, this year they may be a little bit more lenient on it, but going forth, it can be fines for, up to $4,000 or $5,000 just for not having it.
And can you repeat that figure for me again about the number of people misdiagnosed each year?
Yes, it's actually 12 million adults who seek outpatient treatment are misdiagnosed each year in the United States.
Now, that's just outpatient treatment.
Outpatient treatment. So going, not in a hospital, going to their general practitioner, or going to perhaps a specialist, or going to maybe an urgent care. But whatever it is, it's outpatient treatment. Like what I did, going to my normal doctor that I'll go to.
So this doesn't include death by pharmaceuticals, which is another extraordinarily high number in terms of being given the wrong drug or too much of a drug. Just as a case in point, the wife of a friend of mine recently committed suicide because she was given an antipsychotic 12 months ago. And turns out she was given 200 times the recommended dose.
Wow.
And she was on that dosage for 6 months. And when they took her off it, the damage to her brain was irreparable, according to the doctors, and left her in a mental state that she just couldn't live in. This stuff happens. And
it is.
My grandparents' generation, doctors were gods.
Right.
You put your lives in their hands, absolutely. You trusted them with your life. And I watched what that did to my grandparents and made me cynical from a young age. And so it sparked my interest in alternative and natural therapies in the beginning. And my own experiences, you know, with epilepsy as a kid and how that got handled. No, you know, it's like,
right.
There's got to be something better, you know.
You know, I think the best thing is to trust yourself, you know, go with what resonates to you, really be proactive in your own healthcare and be responsible for yourself. Don't put it to anybody else, no matter what. Like, you know, step up. It's, you know, my recommendation. And if something doesn't resonate true, do not do it. Don't go for it.
I've actually got someone on Skype who wants to share her story, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that.
And I'm hoping this will work. If I call her on Skype, I'm wondering if this will work. You'll be able to hear her.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, darling. Can you just turn off the show? Because it's...
Yep, sure. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Love to hear your experience. You were given a cancer diagnosis.
Yes, I had a bad pap smear back when I was 31, and I complied with the gynecologist's first recommendation, which was a LETS procedure, just cauterizing and burning of the cervical cancer cells, and then to wait for 3 months and then get another pap smear in just to make sure that they got everything. And I at that time it was very painful, and I wasn't allowed to. He didn't give me time for the anesthetic to set in, so I smelt my burning flesh, and I felt the extreme pain of that procedure, followed by a post-LETS procedure, hemorrhage, in which I almost bled to death. So, needless to say, when the second bad pap smear came back following that procedure, I was very cautious about having another LETS procedure because of the previous pain and burning and being fully awake for the procedure and the post procedure hemorrhage that I had, where I lost so much blood. So I was discussing various options with him, and he said, well, look, it looks like it's going to be a reoccurring thing. Looks like it's going to just keep reoccurring. And
why would such a thing just continue to reoccur?
Yeah, these cervical cells will continue to be problematic, and I've seen it before, and I recommend at the age of 31 that you receive a hysterectomy. And my whole being convulsed at the time, and I saw, because I'm psychic too, and I saw great big capital letters NO, black and red, flashing.
Sorry, sweetheart. Is it possible for you to up your volume? The output or input on your microphone, or just speak up something, because the levels are going to be all over the place.
Sorry about that. Yes, so I was recommended to get a hysterectomy after a second bad pap smear, and my whole body convulsed into a great big no, and I actually saw the letters NO in my aura, and I knew that my body was not going to receive this very well, and so I said to him, "Come on, Glenn, I'm a businesswoman. Tell me how much my uterus is worth to you on the table right now." And I slapped my hand on the table. And he said, "Oh, well, if you're talking about it like that, it's about $2,700. And I said, "And what about a yearly colposcopy and pap smear and biopsy and things like that. And he said, oh, that will probably put in my pocket about $600 a year. He goes, but come on, Eilish, you should get a hysterectomy. What do you need your uterus for anyway? You've got 2 kids. And I just looked at him and I just said, well, you've got 3 kids, Glenn, and my uterus isn't going to go and pay for your Geelong grammar school fees.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. He admitted all of that.
Yeah, he admitted that it was a profitable thing for him to take out a 31-year-old's uterus just because I'd already had my children. Presuming, of course, that was all the children that I wanted or was willing to have. And I told him about my spirituality and how I move with the moon and how I connect to the earth, and that's very much part of my connection to the divine as a priestess, and how it was my menstrual cycle was part of my spirituality. After which I sacked him and took my medical files and went home and had a cry. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm not a healer's little toe if I can't heal myself with this. And at the time I was already a Reiki master and an intuitive healer. And so I looked deep within myself, and I commenced studying Chinese energetic medicine and kinesiology, and part of that was a homeopathic component. And so in my homeopathic studies, I looked up cervical issues for women, and I couldn't find anything at the time, and all I found was one obscure reference to women's problems using Chinese wisteria. So I meditated on the wisteria, and I saw her curvy body and her long floral cascading hair, and I thought to myself, well, of course she's a female plant spirit, just look at her body. And I thought, well, okay, that'll do. And so I as part of my nutritional and lifestyle program changes, I got a Chinese wisteria plant from the local hardware store, Marta 10, and I put the baby plant between my legs, and I said, you and we're going to have a spiritual, sexual DNA connection. And you're going to feed me and I'm going to feed you, and we're going to have a symbiotic relationship. And so every month I collected my menstrual fluid in a rubber cup called a keeper. Can you see that, Lisa?
Oh, I haven't got my scotch.
It's a rubber vaginal cup that's about the size of a shot glass, that's flexible, that you put up inside, and you can collect your menstrual fluid. And so after reading the anesthesia books and knowing that if you put a tomato seed in your mouth and then plant it in the garden, that seed imprints with the kind of nutrients that you need.
Yep.
That it can make. So I did the same by feeding my menstrual blood, which was where the source of my illness was coming from, to the plant. So the plant became an extension of me and an embodiment of me in plant form. And I looked at the implications of it being a conduit from the solar realms down to the earthly realms, and saw the conduit that it was to anchor heaven to earth, and through my DNA become my ideal medicine plant. So when it became big and we had a telepathic connection, this plant and I. And it used to speak to me like a little baby bird speaking to its mother. And then when it became big and splendid, before that, I charged it up with a Stonehenge of crystals all around it, clear quartz, terminator. So really charged up this plant, really made it my medicine plant, and sat out there regularly with it. And then when it grew big and splendid, I got a glass bowl, and I put a large crystal quartz terminator in the base of it and filled it with distilled water, which was unimprinted water. Then I got it with permission, with using my kinesiology muscle testing. I asked its permission and got a few flowers and leaves from the plant. That was an extension of me. And I put it in the water and charged it up in the full sun. I then took that bowl of water inside and using amber bottles filled with 1/3 brandy and 2/3 distilled water, I muscle tested the amount of drops to take from the mother stock essence and put it in the bottle and percuss that, and that became my first extraction. And then from that first extraction to take how many drops and percuss that and make a second extraction and so forth until I made about six extractions. And use that as part of my own natural therapy. Needless to say, within 6 months, my stage 3 cancer became stage 2, and then another 6 months later became stage 1, and then I got the all clear. So I was using the medical system for like a second to help, like second diagnose my status of my cancer, so that I could keep track of it, because I could muscle test what stage I was, but I wanted a paper trail of and a record of my diagnosis through the medical fraternity, and so I allowed them to take biopsies for me and on my behalf and monitor my work. But I did not receive a hysterectomy, and I did not accept any chemotherapy or radiotherapy or any cone biopsies or anything that they were discussing with me that I should perhaps look at. So my nutritional protocol was more of an alkaline pH, lots of detoxing, and also emotional detoxing as well, where I ditched a toxic relationship. And I surrounded myself with happy, positive people, and rested more and laughed more and worked less and stressed less. So it was a holistic protocol. But I just wanted to share that story with you, that just because you've been given a diagnosis, that you can always question the medical diagnosis and perhaps investigate things on your own.
You know, this came up in a conversation I had with Dee in one of her very first Transpicuous News shows, and we were saying how it was about Ebola, and what came up was, I remember back, you know, when I was a kid, and a lot of my grandparents' friends were getting diagnosed with cancer, and what struck me, even as a little one, was the response to people when they found out somebody had cancer. The number one response was, "How long do they have?" It was unquestioned. It was simply a matter of time. And thankfully that's changed with the treatments that are available and the success stories that are out there. But it still has such a stigma attached to it. You know, that when you hear the big C, you know.
It does. It's so big for me because I was a 31-year-old single mother. My boys were 6 and 7 at the time. I had so much to live for, as I still do. But, you know, particularly that they were at such a young, vulnerable age at the time. And I didn't know how long I had to live either. And it was one question that was commonly asked of me. And I was also, my sanity was questioned because I was questioning the medical fraternity. And I was even accused of being reckless as a single mother for going into the old wives' tales and herbal home remedies. I also took apricot kernels, and I also tested how many apricot kernels I needed. I didn't even know about cannabis oil at the time. I'm 45 now. So back when I was 31, there wasn't that much on the internet that I could find on cannabis oil. So I used apricot kernels because my mother's an old Hungarian lady, and she had lots of access to apricots through the senior sit center every January when they made jam. So I just collected organically homegrown apricot kernels from the old Hungarian ladies in the community who all had apricot trees in their backyards. And so, any wonder why these things are banned? So I used it as my own natural chemo. But please, I ask anyone listening that may be concerned about their own diagnosis to please have a look at non-pharmaceutical remedies and perhaps investigate and do your own research or journey intuitively, inwardly, like I did, and whatever resources are at your fingertips. Like with mine, it was apricot kernels and a very sweet Chinese wisteria that I had a beautiful bond, alchemical bond with. That these things can natural products from Mother Nature.
You said something very key though, which was that you did an emotional detox as well. And I'll use one case in point as an example. There was a gentleman here in Australia who was very well known in the alternative health industry. He had a very popular website selling a whole, you name it, in terms of alternative and natural therapies. He knew about it, he sold it. He himself was diagnosed with throat cancer. And he tried everything. And I mean, everything. And it still got him. He still died of throat cancer. The one thing he could not do, was the emotional work that needed to be done. He did not speak to his family. He was he had grown children that he didn't speak to.
Yeah.
His siblings, people that used to be in his community, he had a falling out with, and he just could not talk to these people, and he couldn't express himself. And to anybody around who understood the emotional side of things, it was clear what was causing the cancer and the work that he needed to do, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it.
Well, that's why he had throat chakra cancer, because
yes.
he wasn't able to get that poison out of his throat chakra, because there's such an electromagnetic connection and an emotional connection to where our illnesses come from. I mean, mine was cervical, so I had psychosexual issues, and shaming was part of it. And so the reason why I ditched my toxic relationship was because he was into slut shaming and putting me down, and making me feel ashamed that I was a massage therapist and assuming all sorts of things because of his jealousy. And so that was,
that relationship needed to go no matter what, by the sounds of things.
Yeah. So when I cleared him and realized that, no, I shouldn't feel guilty for putting my hands on people. I'm a healer, that helped go a long way towards my own healing. But yes, wherever your illness is, it's related to a particular chakra. So if he's not cleared his throat chakra, and clear the air with people, that can manifest in an illness in that specific part of the body.
And it really didn't matter what he tried physically. Nothing worked in the end.
It's not going to work until you clear it with your family. When you clear it with the sources of the original wounding. And this is why I think kinesiology is so powerful too, because we can just download the source of the core issue and the source of the pain and deal with it energetically. But anything that has to be said really needs to be said. In order for one to clear the air and to get this cloud off this heaviness off our shoulders, because it will manifest aurically. It sits there like a heavy cloud, and then it affects electromagnetically the cells closest to the aura in the part of the body that's manifesting in, and then those cells go radical, and so that's why I'd obviously internalized his sexual jealousy, and worn that deeply until I realized what was happening and cleared it from myself and cleared him from my life. and that went a long way, I believe, towards my healing, for sure. But yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like he couldn't let go. And even in the Buddhist philosophy, attachment is what causes suffering. So wouldn't it be the most logical thing is to let go and detach? And so we need to let go of our stories and our issues and get these things out in the open.
Thank you, Eilish.
Thank you, Lisa.
That's an extraordinary healing story.
Yeah, no worries.
And thanks to your beautiful wisteria.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, darling. Stop share. What a great story.
Absolutely.
And, the fact that she made her own homeopathic remedy too, they're not that hard to do.
I love that because, that's the important thing. I realize that we're talking about if you are in fact, misdiagnosed, but for those who are diagnosed and actually do have it, I do agree. They do need to go with what resonates true to them. And obviously it's helping her. So that's fabulous. And that's definitely what you need to do.
So when you say you see cancer, for example, in somebody, what do you see? What does it look like?
The way that I see it, it normally looks like a lot of little black specks. It almost looks, and it's like moves around in them in one generalized area is how I see it. For example, a person that had, breast cancer, I would see it in the chest area. I would see it wherever the location of the cancer is how it appears to me. So I know when they usually do have that. I didn't see any of that in me. So I knew that it just didn't resonate to me because I can see that. I've shared stories on many shows about the first time kind of knowing that there was something wrong when I was 1.5 years old with my baby sister. Now, she came home from the hospital, and of course I didn't have the terminology to say what it was or to figure it out. I just, told my parents, take her back. She's broke. She don't work right. And they found out 2 weeks later she had Hirschsprung's disease, and she needed an emergency colostomy. In her, it was brown. What's that?
What is that disease?
It's actually a disease that affects like the bowels, and she needed to have a colostomy. And the way that I remember seeing it is that area looked all brown. And I knew that when I looked at everybody, I can see them with different colors, and I could see if there's an illness, it represents a different area and there's different ways. And even back then, I was 1.5, I could see that there was something wrong with my baby sister, and sure enough there was. And like I said, I didn't see any of that in me.
But often don't you find that often with clairvoyants and intuitives that they can tell all sorts of things about other people but nothing about themselves? In your case, you can see normally?
Actually, until I couldn't in me until I got hit by lightning. And anybody that has any kind of abilities, that has an experience with being hit by lightning, will tell you that turbocharges everything. And I can see in me ever since that experience with the lightning. And, I've had a lot of near-death experiences as well that I know that we've talked of and everything with that. 13 is a lot. And it's a lot of near-death experiences.
13 last count.
13, and that's a lot to go through and to be on the other side and have experiences like I've had. So, and maybe that may make things different as well, because I do believe each time there's a near-death experience, a higher, more spiritual version of yourself comes back with you. How could it not? You're being exposed to your metaphysical side. And what, that's something that's really, really important too, is that we've talked about how we're here, to experience life and love lessons, and we're doing that here in the physical. We are metaphysical beings, and you've heard people say we're having a human experience while we're here, but we're spiritual beings. That's true. We do come from a different reality. This is not the reality that we're from. The physical that we're in is not our true existence. Our true existence is our metaphysical existence. And people have asked me, well, why do we go through this? And the reason is that we cannot have the same experience on the metaphysical that you can have here in the physical, because you cannot access the senses on the metaphysical. It's very much like going through an experience like a hologram is how I describe it. You can go through all the motions, but you can't have the feelings and you can't use your senses like that. So it's not exact. In the physical where we're here is where you can actually live and truly experience a real experience.
And it can be so much fun.
Definitely.
I've got to say, be a bitch, but you get that.
Yeah, the physical is pretty awesome. I've learned that recently, so that's cool.
So apart from encouraging people to seek a second opinion outside the ring of referrals, is there anything else you want people to take away from this?
Well, first of all, like there's so many things occurring all at once, and the intent of the powers to be is really to convince us to panic, and it's to convince us that the world is in a state of destruction, and that's just not true. The truth is that we are actually in a state of deconstruction, and what you really need to do is you need to realize that we're seeing the truth versus con, as in pro versus con. We're being exposed to all the pros. So there's light and there's truth light. Light is artificial, truth light is pure. And they go hand in hand. So the way is really to be true to yourself and to come from your heart center. I've always said that, let your words and your actions come from your heart center. If you do that, there is no obstacle that can get in your way. You are unstoppable. And that's just real important to remember.
For the last few years, myself and those that I've been working with, talked about how this is the time of transparency and the true meaning of the apocalypse. It all will be revealed, and that light is being shone in all the dark places. And if this kind of conspiracy, which is going on in the medical field, then it needs to be brought out, and a light does need to be shone on it. Now, obviously, everything that we've talked about today has come purely from intuition, but I know that there are people out there who know what is being said is true, and they know it firsthand. They're involved in it. They've experienced it from a patient, whatever the case may be, and they could provide the hard evidence. So if that's you, maybe it's time to step up. So thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Lisa.
If we've helped anybody out there have the courage to go and get a second opinion, then job well done.
Absolutely.
And thank you to Biggie in the background for hosting us today. We will talk again soon, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye for now.